Howdy. I think we can all relate to coming to a certain point where you just give up on New Year's resolutions, where you're just like, it's another year. I have no plans, I have no goals. No judgment there. I'm the same way. I'm like, I fail within the first couple weeks, so what's the point in even putting one together? And I'm also a firm believer in if you want something to happen, just make it happen. You don't need to wait for the start of a new week, start of a new month, start of a new year. Just start, right? But this year for 2025, I did decide I really wanted to read more books. So every month I've committed to reading a new book. Unless the book is like 700, 800 pages, then I extend it to 2 months, only because I have to juggle that with work and school. So I'm like, I'm going to start small, just one book a month. Well, to some of you, that might seem a lot. To some of you, that might seem like nothing at all. Anyway, oh gosh, there's just so much going on. I have no makeup on. I feel like I look like a mess, but I'm so busy. But I just really, really wanted to make a video blog about the book I read for January. Bam. No Country for Old Men by Cormac McCarthy. I never watched the movie. But now that I read the book, I gotta watch the movie, which I'm gonna do soon. Also, look. He's back. Well, he never left. I just stopped using him. Also, this guy's got a hat. If you know nothing about No Country for Old Men, I think there's already some sort of clue here that it's got Western themes. No Country for Old Men. Very, very good book. I would rate it I don't know. Overall, I think I'd rate it an 8 out of 10. How much I enjoyed it, that would go up and down. There's a range there, I'd say. Probably 6 out of 10 to a 9 out of 10. That's a pretty big range. There were parts about it that I really liked. There were times where I was like really excited to keep reading, and then times where I was kind of like, I'm having a hard time following along. What I will say about reading this book is it defies the laws of literacy. What I've noticed is when you school always tells you, and English teachers always tell you, that there's like all these rules to writing, and then you read all this classic literature and they follow none of the rules. So I love that. I think that's really funny. So because there's a lot of run-on sentences which I love. Like a whole paragraph will just you'll be reading, 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 and then finally see the first period, and you're like, oh, that was all just one sentence. But it works really well, I think, because it creates the pacing I believe the author wanted to be there. So it's all like the character drove off the highway, got out of the car, put gas in his car, then got back into the car and got back into the highway. And I kind of really like that filler. I think it works really well. I'm not like a brilliant bookworm book writer, so I can't explain exactly why it works well. So I guess I'm very illegitimate, y'all. Either way, this character from the very beginning makes a decision that impacts the entire book, which I mean that's usually how stories go. But it's really good because a part of you, well, for me at least, a part of me was like, why did you do that? Like now you're in all this crazy danger and your wife is, and it makes me really sad, especially at the end, because it feels like ugh, all this stuff didn't need to happen if he just didn't make that decision initially. But then at the end, this character's father mentions how he went to war, and when he came back, he looked older, which I think is a hint towards the title, where his son comes back from war. There's also a lot of themes of that. Like, I feel like a majority of the male characters here are all veterans, which is really cool because it explains, first off, how they know how to do certain things and why they think a certain way, but it also it does just add like multiple layers to these characters, and it's kind of funny too because it almost connects them all with them all being veterans, I suppose. But yeah, the when the father says that about his son, how his son looks older, it adds on to the title being No Country for Old Men, as if his son maybe it's almost gives more of an explanation as to why his son made that decision in the first place. Like maybe a part of him is longing for that again, like he just feels uncomfortable in the world that he's in because he knew war. I might not be explaining this well, but if you've read this before, I feel like you would probably be able to agree with me. But overall, it's very interesting. It's very action packed. It's very short too. It's It's very short. It's a really easy read. There are parts that aren't easy, for me at least, having grown up in California and now I live in like the Midwest. So at no point was I well acclimated with Southern language. And the author also writes almost like with Southern slang. There's things that you kind of pick up on through context clues or that you know from either TV shows or movies that you've watched, but there's still parts that are kind of like it's almost foreign. It's all like, oh, that's kind of a weird way to put things, or like I had to like reread it a couple times to like really understand what the author was saying. But it was really, really interesting and overall very enjoyable. Now, my book for February, and we're starting strong, let me tell you. Blood Meridian by the same author, Cormac McCarthy. I've already read a couple pages, a little bit of it. I won't lie, I'm behind for No Country for Old Men. I was on top of that, but I'm a little behind for this. But already starting off, it's a lot more ambitious than No Country for Old Men, I've noticed. But oh my gosh, it's so interesting. Like it immediately tells like the whole story of this character and how he was shot and this like barkeeper's wife took care of him but he couldn't pay her back so that he ran away, and that's like a very small portion of like this opening couple pages. It's really, really interesting just how it like jumps right into things, and I really like stories that do that. So yeah, my goal is to read 12 books by the end of the year. That could end up being like 10 or 11, depending on if I choose really big books. But I've got this, that. I know I want to read Frankenstein, To Kill a Mockingbird, Animal Farm. They're all just literary classics that I missed throughout school. Like I've read 1984, Fahrenheit, stuff like Little Woman, and what's that one? Time Machine, Time Traveler, whatever. That was a really weird book. That was a really short one too, but that was weird. That was super interesting. But anyway, I'm really excited to start reading again, and this is my vlog doing so. Do you like my cowboy hat? Maybe paid $15 for this at a Spirit Halloween. Yeah. Anyway, read No Country for Old Men. Very good book. Also, I feel like I look scary without makeup. I feel like I look really scary. Okay, guys. Thank you for watching. Bye bye.